Elon Musk made a number of comments yesterday that shows he's about to make Tesla stock skyrocket. He said anyone could buy Tesla stock right now and come along for the ride. In a very, very interesting note, he also said that his companies are surprisingly, in some ways, trending towards convergence. There's a lot to unpack here. This comes after Adam Jonas of Morgan Stanley encouraged Tesla to revisit the XAI investment vote, saying he doesn't think investors understand just how important XAI is to Tesla and the broader Muskonomy. Other institutional analysts like William Stein of Truist Securities sees the approval of Elon's compensation plan has now removed a major overhang. And while the company is clearly now a physical AI company, the stock might have gotten ahead of itself. According to new 13F filings, Vanguard apparently significantly increased its holdings in Tesla stock last quarter by buying 1 million shares. This could be just normal readjustments though. So where do we think the stock's going to go from here? It seems more investors now see the bigger AI play and the bigger overall strategy with Tesla and how it'll dominate as it works together with XAI, SpaceX, Neuralink, and the Boring Company. Today we have Cern Basher, a chartered financial analyst. He's here with us today. He runs his own investment advisory firm called BrilliantAdvice, providing wealth management services. Welcome, Cern.
Hi, Herbert.
So lots of talk about here on recent comments by Elon just yesterday. He's really all over the stock and what he's going to do to the stock. So Phil Bisell sent this note. He said the final boss in Musk's 2025 compensation plan is achieving $400 billion in EBITDA. And he just gave a perspective that to get Saudi Arabia, oil company, achieved the highest annual EBITDA on record in 2022. That was only $238 billion, only. Driven by elevated global oil prices, higher sales volumes, strong refining margins amid geopolitical tensions and post-pandemic. So they only did that because of this, crisis in the world. This figure surpasses other major companies, ExxonMobil, another gas company, oil company, $102 billion in 2022, and Nvidia, $34 billion fiscal 2024. So for context, Aramco's 2023 EBITDA was approximately $236 billion, still leading, but lower than 2022. Let that sink in. I like this because it shows that it's oil companies that are making the most. And so Elon achieving $400 billion in kind of this, the energy autonomy that can reduce dependence on oil is kind of, what's the word? Ironic?
Yeah.
Fate, or, it's a nice way to end this. Elon said, it sure is a tall order, laughs. Anyone can buy Tesla stock right now and come along for the ride. There will inevitably be some bumps along the way, but with truly immense amount of work, I think these goals can be accomplished. Thoughts on this?
Well, if you just go back one slide, the Nvidia EBITDA of, call it $35 billion, right? The company's market value is $5 trillion on that. So just as a point of reference, right? We know Elon's comp plan and the pieces around that. The $400 billion EBITDA is one part, but also then the $8.5 trillion market value. And you can see that with Nvidia at $35 billion EBITDA, they're already at a $5 trillion market value. So the market value part of this equation, I think, is going to be the easy part, quote unquote. The hard part, as Phil's post is pointing out here, is to actually produce the earnings, and that's a colossal number. More than 10x what NVIDIA is currently doing. And NVIDIA has been one of the most successful companies in history in terms of growth. And then, of course, as you pointed out, Herbert, the oil companies, a commodity that has price spikes, and sometimes these companies earn some pretty large windfall profits. Tesla has to go well beyond that to achieve these targets.
Elon said this, I think these goals can be accomplished. And I know you've been doing your forecasts and you've got EBITDA numbers, you've got all sorts of numbers, revenues. When do, just for the sake of record here, you do think these are achievable, accomplished? What's your thinking about the timeline and so forth?
Yeah, we reviewed that, I think, on a recent show, but it's going to be, in my opinion, at least 5 years from now before they get to those numbers, which is fine because Elon has 10 years to achieve those targets. But I think in that 5 to 10 year time frame, it's entirely possible.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Now, this is funny. Elon, of course, we've been covering it the last few days after the annual shareholder meeting and after it was approved, shareholders approved his comp plan. Obviously, everybody comes out going, you're giving Elon $1 trillion? And so Elon actually replied to that. Warren Redlick said, if you think Elon will actually get the full $1 trillion, why aren't you buying the stock? you know, and Elon said logical. And then he said, what's wild is often the same people who say that Tesla's overvalued and will come crashing down are the same ones who say that a stock award contingent on Tesla being way more valuable than any other company ever is also too high. Can you comment on your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I made a post about this yesterday as well, and kind of pointing out the absurdity with this. And I kind of couched it in terms of people that sort of want to redistribute the pie versus people that want to grow the pie, and just the different mindsets involved in both of those points of view. But it is kind of crazy, right? On one hand, people think that Tesla's overvalued and the stock's going to come crashing down. And on the other hand, it seems to be many of the same people who also feel like it's crazy to give Elon $1 trillion in compensation, not understanding that in order for Elon to earn that compensation, he has to massively grow Tesla's revenue and earnings. In order to do that, they have to build the business and invest in CapEx, which means investing in communities. It means hiring people. It means building up a whole ecosystem around Tesla to produce the revenue and the earnings that is required for Elon to, essentially make $1 trillion. For some reason, many people have difficulty understanding that concept, that we're not just taking the same old pie and giving Elon $1 trillion of it. He's creating new wealth where there was none. By putting these new products into the world, you're creating wealth basically out of nothing. That is tremendous. We should be encouraging more of that. I wish that more corporate leaders would step up to the plate and say, I want a plan like Elon because I think I can deliver results like that. Yet, do we see any? No, there's none. And in fact, the board hired that special advisor to look at if they applied Elon's past plan, would any of the other companies achieved any of the goals? Mm-hmm. Right, and we did a show about that. I think NVIDIA would have achieved 3, and the average
of the 12 milestones.
I think so. I think it was 12. Yeah.
12
and that
tranches.
Was NVIDIA, and I think most companies would have achieved less than 1. Yeah, on average.
Yeah, this is crazy talk, right? The company's at 1.5 trillion. He has to hit 2 trillion before it even gets anything. He needs to hit 8.5 trillion. This is like crazy talk. There's no company that's worth 8.5 trillion today. It's 5 trillion. It's NVIDIA. And then people think, that conversation, of course, has been boiling up. We've been having that back and forth with lots of people on X. I did a show on this. The part I wanted to talk to you about today is this next bit, which is, I think, very revealing by Elon talking about the convergence. Eventually, some of his companies will converge. But this idea that here we are talking about Tesla and what it needs to achieve in order to become massive. But he's got lots of other major important companies that are very successful also, SpaceX, Neuralink, and of course, XAI and the Boring Company. And each of these kind of like work together. And that came together when last week he was all over space-based AI data centers. That idea could be even larger than everything we've ever talked about so far. Maybe not as big as humanoid robots, but almost about as big. And yet that will take SpaceX, that will take XAI, that will take Tesla to provide the chips. So here's what Adam Jonas said on Morgan Stanley on his new note just yesterday. He said, Tesla shareholder, obviously, what happened with XAI investment vote, it was more people voted yes than no, but because of the people who abstained and the Tesla's bylaws treats abstaining on the vote, including Elon abstaining on the vote, considers that as a no. Mm-hmm. So according to Tesla, they're not sure if that's enough of I don't know if it's quorum correctly, but there's not enough of a overwhelming, message from the shareholders that they do want Tesla as an advisement to look at whether or not they invest. So it's kind of hanging in the air. Adam Jonas says they're going to have to revisit this. We don't think investors understand just how important XAI is to Tesla and the broader economy. Tesla's relationship with XAI, financially and strategically, is deterministic to the long-term success of Tesla, due in part to the natural synergies of data, software, hardware, and manufacturing in recursive loops. The values and value systems of both Tesla and XAI are endowed by the values of their shared creator. We believe this co-determination becomes more obvious in the next phases of physical AI autonomy for Tesla in the year ahead. I know you and I Totally believe this. But this is a very interesting comment that Elon made. There's a lot to unpack here. My companies are, surprisingly in some ways, trending towards convergence. What do you think he meant by that?
Well, yeah, there's a lot to unpack here, but I think it's very clear, right? So you've got XAI. If we exclude the former Twitter part, we've got XAI and building AI systems, artificial general intelligence, eventually artificial superintelligence. So you can think of that as kind of the brain of potentially a robot. If you want to be able to talk to your car, if you want to be able to talk to a robot, then the large language model that XAI is building is going to be an important component of that, right? That's different than the AI system that Tesla is building, FSD, to make the cars, move autonomously. It's a different system, but I suppose at some point that may also converge. And so that's something to think about. And perhaps Phil Bissell can speak more to that. So that, what XAI is developing becomes very important for Tesla cars and Optimus in terms of us being able to communicate with them. And then in terms of putting data centers in space, as you mentioned, Tesla has the chip. Tesla has the AI5, AI6, AI7, eventually AI8 chips that will likely be the chips that would go into those satellites, those AI data centers in space that SpaceX would launch and build in space. So Tesla becomes a very important component to that. And so you can sort of see this convergence. Phil Bissell has talked about how FSD for the cars will eventually be the same AI software as what powers Optimus. It'll be one AI system. And so I'm wondering out loud now whether the AI that XAI is building also then becomes one with the FSD and Optimus AI system, one sort of real world AI model, right? That understands language, understands physics, and everything else. And then that AI model then is used to power anything and everything, whether it's drones, right, and other robots of sorts. And then, of course, I guess ultimately, Neuralink is putting AI in our own brains. Now, that's a little further down the road. I think it's not as critical right now that maybe Tesla be invested in that. But you can see, I think, what Elon's getting at here in terms of everything is sort of relating to something else, and they're all going to be part of the same ecosystem.
Whoa. Okay, that's so many questions for you. Before we go, just a little bit of housekeeping. Did you know that Phil's last name is not Bissell?
Bicell?
It's Bicell.
Bicell.
And you're supposed to be his best friend.
Sorry, I knew that. I still have trouble saying it. So apologize to Phil for that. He should be a Wall Street trader with the name Bicell.
And what are you? Okay.
Good point.
Okay. Side note. Sorry, guys. Anyways, do you know of any other presidents, any other company, any other business that had owned multiple businesses that then worked together? Together were better. Like Warren Buffett? I don't see. Even then, I felt like all his businesses were separated. There was not really any kind of synergies. Was there any others? Was Apple? I know Steve Jobs also owned Pixar, and that was a big deal that he owned two multi-billion-dollar companies. There was some relationship, but Disney, Apple, and Disney, and Pixar with Apple. But here, every one of them needs each other. But because each of them has this, it makes this company even massive. Like Tesla is now in the game of creating AI data centers. But now they're going to be part of a game of space-based AI data centers. Only because of SpaceX, because SpaceX is the only company that can do reusable rockets to get things up there. That allows Tesla to create the chips that will power all of these AI data centers that's going to be out there. That's one example, right? The technologies, of course, coming back and forth, but robots that Tesla makes could be sold to SpaceX. And an XAI you were saying is going to be the brain. I hope it isn't. And I had this discussion with Warren Redlick. Like XAI is going to be used by Tesla's bots in cars, but we don't if you don't have a relationship with XAI except for this the same founder, you can't. As a Tesla investor, I don't want to just rely on this other truly a separate company to control. You want Tesla's AI team to create their own version of their brain. I don't know. Do you know of any other precedents of another situation like this?
Well, there have been lots of conglomerates in history, and one of the most recent ones that we probably all remember is General Electric, right? With the power generation business, with aircraft engines, with appliances, financial services, and all kinds of other businesses. Now that ended up kind of falling apart, and maybe it wasn't really any real synergy other than just sort of overall, management approach and so on. This is different. This is fundamentally different. This is AI is being developed by two companies kind of side by side, and I think there's a convergence in that AI system at some point. Not yet, and maybe not for a while, but certainly Tesla's vehicles need a large language model for that communication part. That's not built into FSD. FSD is not doing that. All right, that's just for the car. But we all want to be able to talk to the car. We all want to be able to talk to Optimus. That would be crazy if we can't do that. So right there is the synergy that we need now. But as you point out, there's some longer term things as well, particularly in the data center side.
I interviewed Larry Goldberg just a few days ago, and he had a great idea. What do you think about this? He said, okay, so you don't need to necessarily, Tesla does not have to invest in XAI, but what Tesla should do is swap shares. Swap shares between all the companies.
Yeah.
So Tesla should have shares of, XAI, SpaceX, and also with XAI, for example. And basically that's how you do it. So you have one company, Tesla, that is public, and then you have the rest that are private. But that's how you might do it. Have you heard that thought, or what do you think? I might want to do a full show with him to truly break this down, what he means by this, but it's pretty interesting.
Well, Herbert, because I listen to every single one of your shows,
Sure you do.
Fully aware of what Larry said on the show, and in fact, I've taken it 2 steps further.
Oh, okay.
One, I reached out to him. I think he may still be traveling. But I also made a post today on X. And so we actually should probably get together with Larry and discuss that. I framed out some of the various ways that they could go about doing this. There's problems with every single approach. So I'd like to get Larry's perspective. One of the issues that I think is a problem right now for Tesla with regard to XAI is it's my understanding that there's another lawsuit in Delaware. Delaware just won't go away. This time between the Cleveland Bakers and Teamsters Pension Fund, which they allege that Elon breached his fiduciary duty, right, by usurping a corporate opportunity, XAI, from Tesla. Yep. And the remedy that they've asked for is that Elon's ownership in XAI be given back to Tesla. So if that's the case, if that happens, if the court finds in favor of that, which obviously that would be a long drawn out process because Elon would probably appeal, Tesla could get XAI for free. So why would you invest in XAI as long as this lawsuit is still hanging out there? So that actually is a bit of a thorn in the side, I think, of the Tesla board right now with respect to XAI and moving forward on that investment.
Interesting. I had no idea about this.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Delaware just won't go away. We're incorporated in Texas, and we thought Delaware was in our rearview mirror. It appears that it's not.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to you and Larry, and maybe Alexandra needs to be part of this to really think this through. But this idea that my companies, he said, are all converging towards, surprisingly in some ways, I find it funny, he said surprisingly, trending towards convergence. I asked him this question at the shareholder meeting. Like, do you plan ahead, this far ahead? Because things seem to just perfectly line up.
No.
The things you did years ago, and all of a sudden, it connects together beautifully to this incredible, not only business model, but like complete value chain separation, differentiate from any other company out there, and then creates a tremendous amount. That's another great show I'd love to do.
I get why he set up XAI differently. And again, his explanation was to attract the team that they wanted. They wanted to have skin in the game and not be part of a larger organization like Tesla. I understand that. I wish in some ways that Tesla would have been in on the ground floor from the start. That would have solved a lot of problems.
Well, what about the issue that, it's you can't do that because you have the same person that runs both, and isn't that what set you up for lawsuits?
Well, and that's exactly what's happened here is that they're claiming that this was a corporate opportunity that was in Tesla's hands that was taken away from Tesla
Yeah.
and put in a separate company that shouldn't have happened. That's the crux of the lawsuit. We'll see how the court finds on that. I would imagine that Delaware might be a little biased, but if this becomes a Supreme Court case at some point, then that gets really interesting. But the problem with that is it drags out for years.
Okay. So yeah, should have shown this a bit earlier. This has been the writing on the wall for years. Nick Cruz Patain says Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, Boring Company, X and XAI, of course, have already merged. I don't expect them to merge. Okay, that a lot of people still somehow think that there's going to be some sort of holding company that all of them fall into, and eventually it's all going to be owned by XAI. Nah, I just don't think so. But I think this idea that you guys are exploring of swapping shares with each other makes the most sense.
Yeah. Yeah, the holding company scenario is kind of the Google, the Alphabet, right? Alphabet owns Google and Waymo and all kinds of other Google enterprises under the holding company. And that is kind of interesting long term. Larry's the suggestion now, I think, is also interesting, but there may be some near-term challenges on that.
Okay, so we now know after, by the way, this just happened, of course, after the annual shareholder meeting. And so the company moved forward with officially issuing the performance award shares split into 12 tranches. That's a new SEC filing that was just shared here. The earning of each tranche is subject to satisfaction of certain conditions. So this is just basically the same thing we already knew, nothing new.
Yeah, the thing to say with this, I think, Herbert, is there's some confusion here, is that Elon has been granted this 423 million shares and he has the voting power associated with these shares. I don't believe that's the case.
Yeah.
He has to earn these still. He has to meet the criteria and then he will receive the shares. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then actually the SEC filing prior to that actually showed that it wasn't the approval by shareholders wasn't 75% as we were communicating. It's actually 76.6%. So just an FYI. Yep. That was the proposal 4, and that was where we were. Okay, so a few more things here. Here's how analysts have reacted to all of this after the shareholder meeting. What's interesting, so what they're saying is the stock setup is still tricky as physical AI is a long way off. So now you're seeing that these analysts are jumping on saying Tesla's a physical AI company. But now they're saying, yes, they are, but earnings won't come for years away. So I'm still not going to recommend buying it. That's what they're doing at this point. So first they said that the approval of the comp plan removed a major overhang. Truist Securities, William Stein, said that retaining Elon, of course, was a big deal, and securing his leadership and voting influence rather than its dollar value. Tesla's physical AI initiatives become a more concrete driver. He says, we did this on one show before, right? But this is another analyst. Now they're giving Tesla's valuation 11% to the car business, 11% to energy, and 2/3 to AI-driven initiatives like FSD, robotaxis, humanoid bots. What's your thought to that breakdown?
Well, that's great, but they must be giving very low expectations to the AI-driven initiatives to say that today's 1.4, $1.5 trillion market value, 2/3 of that is related to the AI businesses. That seems low to me, but that's fine. At least they're realizing that this is where the future of the company is. I do think it's interesting when they say future value hinges on unproven AI ventures. Well, that was also the case with NVIDIA when they rolled out their GPUs, right? So it's just because it doesn't exist. How did you see that?
This was the next slide.
That was in the first paragraph there on the previous slide.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. All these projects are quite unproven. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So close to zero revenue. That doesn't mean zero value, but just zero revenue. As we've shown, the potential for these is so great that even if you apply, a probability 5-10% to these numbers, you still get a high current value to them. And analysts clearly aren't doing that yet. They're not making those long-term projections yet.
Yeah. Good. Well said. I like that. Close to zero revenue, but not zero value that you should already still be applying. Even if you apply probabilities of success is low, you still, even if you did that properly. But you know how these guys are. They're just going to throw a number and go, okay, I'm looking at now, the next year, not, I can't think like you do further down. Okay. So that's what they said. Now, another thing we just learned because of a 13F filing is Vanguard, obviously one of the largest shareholders of Tesla. They increased their shares by 1 million shares. But having said that, we should be aware that Vanguard and all these massive companies that own billions of dollars of Tesla, they do these kind of like it's readjustments, restructuring. What's your interpretation of this?
Yeah, I think it's just indication of, Vanguard's an enormous organization. Whether that's any active decision on Vanguard's part, we don't know. They have both passive and active funds. Most likely, it's probably just flows into their passive funds, I would guess. But we don't know that. It could be that some of their active funds are acquiring Tesla shares. And if so, that's encouraging.
Yeah, so they had 251 million shares. Now they have 252 million shares. Oh,
Yeah.
but at least they're buying, right? And I just wanted to point out, okay, yeah, that's basically it. So I just wanted to walk us through the stock that's happening, the movement of the stock. So what is your thought about the stock at this point from the stock perspective after the the shareholder meeting? You retain Elon. He's very confident. You saw the comments he made about, yeah, it's gonna be bumpy, he said, but I think these are achievable. He's talking about the convergence. Yeah, what's your thinking about the stock after everything that's happened?
Well, I think investors should be encouraged from the shareholder vote. The fact that Elon's compensation plan's been approved takes the worry off the table that he's going to leave the company, which I think is silly, but a lot of people felt that. Mm-hmm. It takes the worry off the table that he's going to not develop Optimus or develop Optimus somewhere else, like take it to XAI, for example, or wherever, SpaceX perhaps. Takes that worry off the table, right? And again, I think that was also a silly worry, but Elon did express that he didn't want to build an army of robots if control of the company could be easily wrestled away from him. And having 25% voting control doesn't guarantee that Elon, has control of the company. One of the negative things, I think, is the outcome from the vote that the board of directors basically has to get voted in each and every year. So instead of 3-year terms. And if that's the case, if my understanding of that's correct, and that's the case, they have to move to annual requirements. And a lot of the big institutional shareholders like that because they feel that they can hold the board accountable more easily by doing that. It does also increase the risk that the board is somehow more easily replaced, right? So that's one maybe slight negative, but that's minor in my opinion. Overall, I think it's very encouraging that Elon now has his compensation plan in place. You've got a clear runway to, shareholder value over the next 5-10 years. And that's clarity that we haven't had in a long time. And clearly Elon is driven now to execute, right? We saw that after the shareholder meeting. Elon went back to work immediately. We've seen that since. He's talking about pulling lots of rabbits out of the hat. And he's made comments like that before. And so he's showing us, he's telling us that they're working very hard on building the company, growing the company as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So in my mind, to answer your question, that's a positive thing for the stock. What does that mean for the stock price? That remains to be seen. But it's, to me, an unmitigated positive factor.
Yep. Oh, for sure. And specifically, we're coming up with the unsupervised FSD. Maybe it's going to come in a couple of months. We're going to do another show tomorrow, and it's all about FSD being solved according to Tesla. And we're perfect timing, honestly. Get this shareholder meeting out of the way. Perfect timing. And then robotaxi is going to just skyrocket. Autonomy solved. And he's feeling good about the bots as well. Okay, so a couple quick comments I just want to make is that, what I understand that happened was that when Tesla's board negotiates with these large, like Vanguards of the world, and they say, how are you going to vote for proposal 4? They have to give them something. And the one thing that they gave them was probably the board yearly, being up to yearly terms instead of 3 terms. And that was what they gave them. But the other point I want to make is that this is dirty business. And people going, why should Elon have $1 trillion? No, the $1 trillion was what you needed to get in terms of number of shares in order to get him the 25% share. Why is that so important? You saw that 75% of people voted in favor of Elon proposal. 25% voted no. Yeah. That means activists and whatever, they can say, like, you want CalPERS to run your company? Do you want, the ISIS and Glass Lewis to run your company, who know nothing about this company, and they can decide, oh, I don't want Elon anymore, and vote him out. And that's how close this is. So, okay,
Yeah, no, I think that's scary, and I think that's something for shareholders to be keenly aware of and not be complacent about this, right? I think there's going to continue to be some shareholder battles in the years ahead that are important. You could easily see that perhaps, over time there might be some board members that are added that potentially could prove to be problematic for the company.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful. You have to be very guarded against those kinds of risks.
Okay. Well, good thing that Cern Basher is with us on the retail shareholder side. Might need you. Thanks, Cern. Follow him on X at Cern Basher. I think you can subscribe to him on X as well. But check out his financial advisory firm, BrilliantAdvice.net. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Herbert.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.